Hey guys, I was using this thing to fix some of this plastic on this. I didn't think it was going to do it. This was cracked in half. You'll see later in the video where I started with, and I was just off camera. I did a whole bunch of repair to it, and it's almost pretty solid now. I mean, it was just junk. So I thought, well, try it, see what happens. Anyway, check it out in the video. Talk to you later. In the box, we got another welder from Simder. Let's check it out. So this one's not just a welder, it's a hot stapler. So for fixing your plastics and stuff like that, it's got stuff to do that. It's also a stick welder, MMA, whatever you want to call it. And it's a Flux core MIG only, does not take gas. And it's also a soldering iron. So that's really different. So it's kind of cool. It's got the soldering setup here for soldering. It's very small. Let's put it next to the other Simder. This is a real MIG welder here, the one next to it. And you can see this is quite a bit smaller. And so if you want a real MIG welder, if you're looking for a MIG that does gas, this one here works really well. I did this whole trailer with that. Welded the thick steel and everything. So this is a Flux core rig. It only takes a small spool of wire, has a plastic feed system. Not very thrilled about that part of it. But then again, if you're looking for a hot stapler, it's kind of nice that it has a MIG welder as well. It also does stick welding. So this is kind of cool for like a road trip machine. So you could take this out on the road with you. You could fix, like if you went to Glamis, something like that, you broke your plastics on your quad, you could maybe mend them up with this thing. You just take, you get it hot, you get the plastic hot with this deal here. I think this is what it is. You put a little piece of metal between here, it gets hot, and you stick it between the two surfaces, and then you have a metal back where the cracks in the plastic are, and you can kind of use the probably use the soldering iron portion of it to like melt that back together and fix your plastics. And then you could do some repairs, like you got your nice little small spool of wire. You don't have to carry a gas bottle with it. So that sort of thing, it's pretty cool for that. As a hobbyist, if you're doing any like sheet metal panels, this is not going to be the welder for you. But if you're looking for something like that to do, like frame repair, little small repairs in your frame, motorcycles, that sort of thing, this is pretty neat. This will get you out of a bind a lot of times. For a lot of those things. And you can weld a little thicker stuff if you have some sticks with you. Just plug that guy in and ground it, and you're good to go. So anyway, we'll test out the welding portion, some hot staples in there, so maybe we can try that out, see how it works. And you can get these on Amazon, I'm pretty sure, the hot staples, and I'll show you what they look like. All right, you guys, the funny thing is, I looked up on the directions. It shows to hook up the negative, the black, to ground. So don't know why. Anyway, same thing with if you use so keep the directions, look at them to make sure you got it hooked up right. Then it also shows to do stick welding, that you hook up this to the positive. So I don't know why it works that way, but that's the way it works. So anyway, let's click this guy on. I got some flux core in it. Any lights? There's some lights. Oh, we gotta have it on the right mode. Yeah. Is that wire feed? As I figured, the instructions were wrong, so I hooked up the positive to ground and it started to weld. So let's try. I got 3/16 angle iron, some 3/16 flat bar. Let's see if it even makes an attempt at this. Yeah, I'd be surprised if it welds that thick of steel, but I mean, this little bitty thing, it seems to, I got it to come out, you know, just tried it out, so let's see. All right, so let's look at it raw. Then I'm going to grind it down, and we'll look at it, see how it really penetrated into that. Give it a little bit of grind, and we'll see how it looks. Of course, you guys, that's all the way up, so yeah, it seemed to weld that pretty good. I mean, it's definitely a satisfactory weld. I could see it melting the steel, so seems to be holding. Not bad. Well, you guys, I was disappointed, but I wasn't actually. But I tried welding some dirty sheet metal, and of course, it would not do that, which I didn't expect it to, not being flux core. I've used some gas welders that have welded to this, so that, like, I welded that with another gas welder I was reviewing, and you can't do that with flux core. But let's try, I mean, I can show you if I get something that's like, if I go right next to that spot right there and try and weld that. But I've got the setting, I got it turned way down so it won't burn through too easily. But it will burn right through this. So let's try it for fun. See what it does. There you go. That's what flux core likes to do. Burn holes through sheet metal. Well, that's the thing that, you know, it does actually kind of work with the dirtier metal. Let's see if we can, I mean, this thing's just not really made to do any kind of sheet metal stuff, you guys. This is not flux core's deal. All right. If you want to do sheet metal, you gotta buy a gas welder. Now, I have not tried this one with 0.6 millimeter wire because it didn't come with a feed roller for it. But I think if you did put 0.6 millimeter in it, it would probably work for sheet metal. It had settings that seemed to go down that low for heat. So I'm thinking it would probably work, but I don't have one. So we'll just leave it at that. But if you're looking for something to weld sheet metal, this one does gas. And for this one, I was able to get 3/16 to, yeah, not look too bad. I mean, I could say that would be, you know, something I'd want to do with this all the time, but I mean, we can try and beat it off of there. Let's see if it comes off. Well, it's on there pretty good. That thing's, it's on there. I mean, it's welded for sure. So, I mean, if you had to do it in a pinch, boy, you could definitely weld some thicker steel with this thing, and it would get it done. Which, I'm not gonna say your Harbor Freight, the 125 would even do that. And if you run this thing on stick weld, okay, it will go to 220, which it has a really cool, check out this adapter. You know, you can just pull these guys out. These are protectors on there. Pull those guys off, and you can plug that 110 right into 220. Yeah, do that with one of your regular tools. No, do not do that. You'll burn it up. But yeah, it's kind of neat. It just plugs into that and then plugs into the other. Never seen an adapter like that. That was kind of neat. So yeah, it definitely welds. We tried the thickest tool we can get. You should, and I didn't really clean this really well. I just left it, you know, raw steel. It doesn't have any oil on it or anything, but it did weld that pretty well. It did melt both surfaces when I could see it melting both surfaces when I was going through it. So it does, and it definitely burns holes in sheet metal. So definitely going to do that. I imagine if you stitched it really slowly, like I was doing the first time, you could probably get something to hold. I don't think it would butt weld very well, but you could probably lap, tap, and fill with this. I mean, if it's all you got, you could probably make it work. I call it lap, tap, and fill because you lap over 2 pieces of thin metal and you pound it down low and fill it with filler. It's how bodywork was done many years, for many years before they ever invented butt welding. Now, the only complaint I have so far is, okay, if you look right here, the little blinky thing, you guys can read it, but I can't. When you can get up really close like that, you can read it. But my camera, boy, it looks great. But in person, I had to use my camera to actually see that little guy there because it is hard to read. Well, that's the point. Is that okay? 0.9. Hot stapler. Oh boy, we might get something getting hot now. So you got your hot stapler, then you got your soldering iron. Oh, let's see if that's. Oh, I don't have it plugged in. Thank goodness. Might be getting hot right now. I think. Let's look, it shows 938 degrees. Yeah. So you can solder with it. Kind of neat that you can do that. Well, like I said, if you had this as a road tool, man, can you imagine? You could solder, you could fix wiring, you could fix all kinds of stuff. You know, you could weld things. If you needed to weld something that was kind of thicker steel, you could weld it. I mean, for a trailer welder or something like that, you know, bringing you on the road. It also does TIG, but it does not have a torch. Now, the TIG welding that it does is, again, that's the strike and arc style, you know, they call it lift TIG, where you tap it and then it starts TIGging, and then you have to have gas for that. And, you know, you have to buy the gas bottle, you have to buy an argon bottle. It's not going to be the greatest TIG welder, so I really wouldn't recommend it for that. But it does do it if you needed to. I mean, you could do it. So, yeah, and you can stick weld. Bring yourself some probably 7018 out with you, and you could probably weld some pretty thick steel with it. One of the things I noticed when I was looking at the instructions is it did say that it only goes, I forget how many amps it kind of cuts off at for stick welding on 110. So to get the hotter stick welding, you need to do the 120 thing, or the 220. So you got to plug in the adapter and plug that in somewhere. So on the road, you're not going to get a really hot weld, okay, if you're trying to run it on 110. I would probably not run this on a generator. Maybe if you had to, you probably could, but yeah, it seems pretty cool. I mean, it's a neat item. Let's see. I don't know if I have anything to use for the hot stapler, but I sure would like to try that and see how it works, because I think that's pretty cool. All right, guys, this is actually pretty neat right here. So I got my old Suzuki plastic. I went out to the trailer, pulled this thing off, and I wouldn't try and save this thing, but you know, if you were, you probably could. And this is kind of where the soldering iron comes in. So you have this little thing here, you load this little wire piece on here, you push the red button, and then it gets red hot. So watch it. I think I had it on a hotter setting a second ago. And you just put it into place, and you pull this back off and let it set there for a minute or two. Then you load up your next one, because you're going to want to put several in, right? Be careful, it might be hot. So put this thing on here, push the red button. And just like that, you put a bunch of sutures in there. Back in the old days, we used to just use baling wire and drill holes. This works a little better. So I've already got some baling wire in some spots here. Let's throw some of these on here. And then what you do after you get done is you cut off all the remaining little nubs of wire, and then you get your soldering iron out, because you have one with this thing, right? Switch it over to solder and then go over it so that the grooves are all gone, and fill it all back in again. And then on your car, you use this and you put on your plastic filler. I didn't get that one deep enough. Let me fix it so you can re-put it on there. Heat it up again. Get a little deeper in there. This one too. I don't think I got all of them deep enough. So you put them all underneath, so they're all underneath the plastic. And then cut all the ends off, let it cool. It has to cool for a while. Cut them all off, and then take your soldering iron and go over all the areas. And then I could suture this thing back together over here, and then just put a whole crap load of those things on there. So it does come with quite a few of them. This thing's gonna fall off of here. It does come with quite a few of these. Bag of staples, a whole bunch of them. This style, there's a couple different styles, and you can buy these on Amazon for a hot stapler. I think they're pretty generic. And then fix your bumpers, your car bumpers. So that was kind of the plan with this thing, was for the hot stapler part of it. So kind of a neat piece of equipment. I don't think I'm going to test the soldering. I think we know that works okay. Let's put it on soldering, and it gives you the actual temp, which is nice. If you're you could do like board repair with it. You could do your plastics. Like I said, it's kind of one of those things to bring out with your dirt bike, and you got a welder, you got you got a bunch of little things here that you could use to do repairs on the road, and also use it at the house. So it's kind of a cool item to have. That's why I had them send it out to me. But yeah, I think it's a pretty nice little machine. I was surprised how well it did 3/16. That's a lot of steel. That's very thick steel to do with the flux core welder, and it seemed to do it pretty effortlessly. So it was a little bit of, had to go really slow, to get it to heat it up hot enough. But it wasn't like the Harbor Freight where, I've had those things like not even want to strike an arc, they don't even want to start. And then they just barely, it's just like really laying on the surface weld. That one penetrated in very nicely. So pretty good. All right, that's it for this, guys. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and let's see your comments.